Hey, everybody, it's the Plant-Based Business Hour. I'm Elysabeth, Alfano. Great to see you today on the last Plant-Based Business Hour before the holidays. And of course, happy holidays to everyone. So what we've learned in 2021 is that plant-based is no longer enough. We are branding in a flexitarian world. By that, we mean people who are reducing their meat, working in the veg, and they're maybe doing it. Maybe they started 2021 with just doing it on Mondays, but now they're maybe doing it on Mondays and Wednesdays, Monday, Wednesdays, Fridays. As they grow their Flexitarian platform, they have more brands to choose from, and they are indeed choosing them. So today I'll bring on my guest, Tom Rossmeissl. I'm saying that correctly, am I?
That's pretty good. Yeah, that's right on.
Okay. Okay, I couldn't hear you there in the beginning. We had a little audio thing, but you are back. I hear you now. And you are the head of global marketing, Eat Just Inc. Now, Eat Just Inc. has two companies. Eat Just, we all know the fabulous plant-based eggs, and it has the Good Meat company. Goodmeat.co is the website there. That is a cultivated meat company and producing cultivated chicken. We'll talk about Singapore in just a minute. But first, we have Eat Just. I'll say that sort of true brand, if you will, that brought you guys to market. Plant-based eggs made out of mung bean. Tom, thanks for being with me. And let's dive right in. There's a lot of competition in plant-based eggs now. How's it going for you?
I mean, it's going great. I mean, we're a newer category than, say, plant-based dairy or plant-based meat.
Sure.
There's sort of been this evolution over time, right, of soy milk to almond milk to oat milk, and in plant-based meat space, we saw a similar evolution from a Tofurkey and Gardein to the breakthrough of Impossible and Beyond. There wasn't really a plant-based egg 2 years ago. So when we launched, we were pretty much it. We still control the vast majority of that market. So in the US, I think it's 99.2% of the plant-based egg market, Just Egg controls. But I think we're excited about the idea of more competitors coming in. I think that's generally a good thing, right? If we're seeing more and more companies talking about the value of transitioning from a conventional egg to a plant-based egg, that's going to be good for the whole category. It'll be good for us. So we're like totally okay with seeing more competitors come into the category. We're trying to do our job, which is, half our companies in R&D, so putting their head down, constantly making our product better. We are currently in version 3 of Just Egg. So, you could kind of use the iPhone analogy, right? We're going to keep getting better and better with every different version. So we'll have version 4 out soon, and that will continue to happen. We'll make it more versatile. We'll make it more delicious. We'll make it healthier. So we're focused on that. How can we build a really successful global egg brand? And how can we make the most delicious, best tasting egg? How can we bring down cost? We want to be not just the most delicious egg or the healthiest egg. We want to be the lowest cost egg. And, looking for ways to constantly be more efficient in upstream in protein production, and certainly downstream in terms of how we produce Just Egg and bring it to the consumer. So that's what we're focused on.
So much to unpack there. Let's talk a little bit about that. Pricing, of course, is something that all plant-based brands have issue with. A lot of it comes from just not being able to scale yet. Co-manufacturing bottlenecks being an aside issue. There's also, just you're not buying the kind of quantity that other large-scale international brands are buying. So I don't know that much about mung bean, but I believe it is your main product. Is that right? Your main ingredient?
Yeah, mung bean's a pretty special plant. I mean, it's grown all over the world, in Africa and Asia, a little bit in the US, but not much. It also has a really short growing season. So when we're talking about building a more sustainable food system, mung bean's a really awesome plant because it, again, 60 to 90 day growing season, if I remember that right. It can even be used in regenerative agriculture. So thinking about a cover crop or regenerative uses like that. So I think we're lucky that we sort of landed on this bean, the mung bean, that has this sort of hidden functionality. That if you separate the protein and you do it the right way, what makes our egg scramble isn't the technology that we put into that bean. It's the technology we've built, so when we extract the protein, it still has an incredible functionality. And again, I think we're lucky that we found in the mung bean because it just happens to be widely available and extremely sustainable.
Yeah, and no taste issues. Sometimes you might have pea protein where you have to work on a little bit of masking, et cetera. Or perhaps maybe you do work on masking with mung bean and I don't know it. But I'll say when I have the Eat Just plant-based eggs, which I love, that iconic bottle. We'll talk about packaging in a minute as well. I have no taste of anything other than eggs.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, part of it is the plant, but a lot of it's a lot of work that our R&D teams put into it of how do you extract the protein in a way where you're able to, make sure that it's not overwhelmed by sort of a beany flavor, and that's a lot of work that our technology, product development, R&D team has put into making sure that it works that way. And it's another example of how we can keep making it better. So, when I first came to Eat Just, we were on version 1. And you going from version 1 to version 2 is a huge leap in terms of taste, functionality, texture, smell, everything. And another giant leap to version 3. So all those things will keep getting better, which is one of the exciting things about plant-based food.
Yeah, it is. And I will have to say, for plant-based eggs, I don't know the stats like I know it for plant-based dairy and plant-based meat, but I think just about this time last year when we were going over predictions and trends, and I think the plant-based egg category, now obviously working off of a small base, but was up like 200%. And so I'm wondering if you have any of those kind of stats for us as we round out this year.
Yeah, we're continuing to grow really, really quickly. We, like a lot of grocery, we saw a huge bump with COVID as people returning to grocery stores. And we were certainly one of those companies that saw that. But we've seen it sort of since that initial panicked wave. I think we'll about double our US households in the last 12 months. We're continuing to expand globally too. So we're in the US now. We launched in Canada earlier this year, which has been a really great market for us. We're in China, South Korea, we launched in earlier this year. South Africa, we launched in earlier this year.
Awesome.
We're in Singapore, Hong Kong. And then, Europe is on the horizon and we'll be in that market soon. And, I think we know how much anticipation there is in Europe for Just Egg and more plant-based food. So we're excited to be there as well.
I'm sort of surprised that Europe is your last stop on the globe because there is so much drive there and demand, obviously the UK leading the pack there.
Yeah, it's a regulatory hurdle. So we, the mung bean protein isolate is just not a common ingredient in a lot of foods in Europe. So we had to go through the right processes to be approved. But relatively recently, we got our approval for the mung bean protein isolate. So we're on track and excited to be there soon.
I'm so happy to hear that because I think something that's going to take center stage, I'm working on an article right now about trends for 2022, is ingredients. I think that's going to become a front of pack story to tell. We're no longer monocropping. We're looking at, I don't want to say reinventing, reconfiguring the entire global food supply system. So it's not just that we get in plant-based foods there. It's that, well, then what does that do to the supply chain? You're looking at different ingredients. And I think the story behind the ingredients is going to come front and center. So very interesting there. I'm interested to see how Europe reacts to mung bean and Eat Just. But you talk about regulation. So when I think of regulation, of course, I have to switch over to good meat because you were able to pass the first, I believe, cultivated meat product in the world to be tasted in restaurants. I know there is a cultivated meat company in Israel, but they're tasting not in a restaurant, but in their own facility. So it's a little different. You were the first to really launch it in a restaurant. And now I believe it's even in grabbing delivery apps and stuff. You can get cultivated chicken from Good Meat. Tell me about why, at the same time that you're having this great advancement with plant-based eggs, you're jumping to what might seem to be a completely different business funnel to cultivated meat. And how did you get regulation?
Yeah, there's a lot of questions in there.
Sorry.
In terms of why, I mean, we have two brands. So we have Just Egg, as you mentioned. We have Good Meat, which is cultivated meat. It's producing real meat without having to kill an animal. And they ladder up to the same mission. We are trying to transform the food system in a way that's better for our bodies and our planet. And both of these tools are going to help us get there. We are of the belief that despite all these incredible advances on plant-based, Just Egg is a huge piece of it, and we believe in it, we love it. People are always going to eat meat. And, how can we leverage our technology and knowledge and innovation to address that? And we have this incredible tool. And we're getting better and better at it. As you mentioned, we're the first and only company in the world to receive regulatory approval and sell commercially. So that was about a year to the date. I think in like a few days, it'll be our first year anniversary in Singapore. So we received regulatory approval last November, and then we launched in mid-December of 2020. We are currently for sale at GW Marriott in Singapore.
Right.
And we're also for sale on Food Panda, which kind of like Uber in Singapore, and you can order us on a delivery app, which is pretty amazing. So it's exciting, very exciting to be out there. There's a lot of competitors. We have certainly a head start, and it's exciting. The other thing I would notice about having this plant-based business and the cultivated business is we have an advantage from having the experience of doing plant-based. So, we are very heavy in R&D, but we actually do have talent in regulatory and marketing and brand and sales and product development, and all these teams that go into not just making a huge discovery, but scaling it and being able to take the technology onto the shelves of a grocery store or into a restaurant. And it'll be really exciting for us to take all those different talent within our company and apply it to the cultivated space.
I see the overlap of the Venn diagram for sure. I see the overlap of the mission between the plant-based eggs and cultivated meat. I see the overlap of expertise in the space, just scaling a business period, a food business period. But it's when you go to talk to the consumer that I have two questions. Are they confused by what might seem to be two very different products? Or do you just don't even try to bridge them together for people? You keep the companies separate and you do your marketing separate. And then that's question one. And then two, individually for each company, what have been some of the hurdles that you've overcome for communicating, eggs made out of mung bean and chicken without the chicken?
Yeah, I mean, we could spend the whole hour talking about that.
Yeah.
On cultivated, I mean, this is a completely new technology. So we're having to figure out the right way to educate consumers because it's never existed before. And we've seen, little news articles here and there. But in terms of explaining how you make meat without killing an animal, there's a lot of complexity that goes into that. And we're, learning a lot. We're getting better at it, but there will be a ton of marketing and a ton of education into explaining how to do that. And, the mission behind the company and behind the brands is aligned, but you're right. There's different reasons to buy among the different brands. I think there will be some nuances in terms of the audience. I think there'll be a lot of overlap too, but I think there's certainly some consumers who, as amazing as plant-based meat are, that maybe they're just not there yet, or they're not willing to give up animal-based meat yet. But they ethically know that they want to do something better. And cultivated provides sort of an option for them. It's in some ways the value proposition is it's the best of both worlds, right? You have the benefits in terms of sustainability that you're getting from plant-based, and you get the benefits of taste that you're seeing from animal-based. And as we scale that, we can solve both problems with one technology. So it's quite exciting.
It's really exciting. I see it. At first, I used to think of cultivated meat as the death of animal agriculture. And I now see it as the natural progression of animal agriculture. So animal agriculture, incredibly wasteful. From a business perspective, it's an awful equation. Obviously, we've got, health, the planet, animals, but let's just stay with business for a second. It's wasteful for land. It's wasteful for water. It requires so much deforestation. It's just a completely inefficient system for getting calories to a growing population, which is going to be almost 10 billion by 2050. And we're not getting more land and we're not getting more water. So you're going to have to do something better and more efficient with that equation. And cultivated meat is just the next progression of making animal agriculture actually function well. So if you think I'm old enough to have been taught in high school to type on a typewriter, I no longer type on a typewriter. I use something called a computer. I've advanced. Now I still communicate with people and I still type, but there's nothing that could get me to use a typewriter. And that's what I think of for animal agriculture. There's just nothing that's going to make sense to use it in, inside the window of 10 years. I'm not saying it will be gone in 10 years, but everyone will get the memo within 10 years that this equation doesn't work for us. And then it'll take time to phase it out. But it's just too wasteful. I don't know if you have any thoughts about that.
Yeah, look, I mean, I don't think many consumers, go to the grocery store and go like, look, I want my meat to come from a concentrated animal feeding operation, or I want to ensure that my steak took 25 calories in for every calorie out. Whatever, I may have that a little wrong. But, those aren't reasons why people want to buy meat. And if we can provide them a quality product that can be made without having to tear down a rainforest to plant more commodity crops, or we can provide them a product that doesn't require, a slaughter of an animal, that's great. It's an incredible selling proposition, right? That we're going to be able to have. So, I'm really excited. The other thing I would say is there's going to take some time. It's going to be, like I said, a lot of education and to a lot of consumers. I talked to my parents about it, right? And the notion of meat coming from a bioreactor it's strange. It's strange to a lot of people to explain the process, but it's going to move pretty quickly. We actually did research and is looking at it right now. 2/3 of U.S. consumers are already open to substituting conventional meat for cultivated. That's now, and we're not even in the marketplace in the U.S. It's even higher in Singapore, where we've also done research where we are in the marketplace. So, I think these things are going to move a lot quicker than people think in terms of consumer adoption and how people think about cultivated.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. I think there isn't going to be that barrier to entry. Once people get it, and they will start to get it pretty quickly, they'll just think of it as another option to buy their meat. So I've seen probably some of the same studies, and I'm sorry that I'm not remembering the name of who put it out, but people were saying they can imagine their meat basket in the grocery store is going to be 40% cultivated meat, 40% regular meat, and 20% plant-based meat or something like that. So I remember the 40% cultivated was the one number that really grabbed my attention, because it's like fat-free ice cream in a way. It gives them everything they want, and it solves the problem, and we have serious problems to solve. So it's kind of like can't get it fast enough because our problems, climate change, etc., deforestation, water usage, these are major issues, and animal agriculture is a major culprit there. To solve them like that and not have to give up that much once we get the pricing in order and the technology as well. I mean, maybe we can talk about that. I wasn't there in Singapore when the tasting happened. Was it? I mean, you say you're on plant-based eggs 3.0. How is cultivated chicken 1.0 doing?
I mean, it's doing great. It's an amazing product, and it's the other thing that's really interesting about the cultivated space. Like I mentioned, we can constantly make Just Egg better. We can do the same thing with good meat, right? We can use different cell lines. We can use different processes. We're constantly experimenting what's in our growth medium. There are all these innovations that we do. We're literally at the 1 yard line right now in terms of thinking about where this can end up. I'll give you an example. We're partnering with the Toriyama family in Japan for Wagyu Beef. And one of the promises of that is taking this extremely difficult or rare, I should say, for beef, and like, can we cultivate that? Can we find an easier, more efficient way to bring that to more people? And so the opportunity here is, it's not just can we make cultivated as good as conventional, it's potentially even a bigger opportunity, right? Can we be offering products that are even better than the products that are conventionally purchased in a grocery store. And that's going to take a lot of time and a lot of capital and a lot of research and experimentation. And we're just at the start of it. But I will say that the chicken nuggets in Singapore are pretty amazing. They're like I mentioned, we're for sale at a couple different places. We have surveyed our consumers. 71% of consumers found the taste to be equivalent or better than conventional chicken. And that's at 1.0. So, imagine where we can get to over time. Pretty exciting.
Yeah, so many good things to shout about here. Not just that you get all this extra, better for land, water, animals, et cetera, but you're also producing more, at scale, more quantity of food for a growing population. So there's that food insecurity issue that can be better addressed by using fewer resources and producing more quality, nutritious food for people. And then the democratization of meat, you referred to it here, that rare type of beef, very few people in the world can afford that or have access to it. That will change when you have something like cultivated meat and you can take those cell lines and, be prolific with them, if you will. But you brought up growth medium, and I'd love to know more about that. I know that fetal bovine serum isn't going to be the thing that people go to market with long term because it's too expensive and it's sort of against the kind of purpose of what people are doing here. But it's a tricky business. So where are you guys with your growth medium?
Yeah, I mean, our team's developed a growth medium without needing FBS. I mean, I'm not the right person to speak to the details of all
we
of it,
got off topic, yeah.
But it's definitely important to us, and I think, like you mentioned, it is interwoven with the mission behind what we're doing. So, absolutely.
Yeah, it's so very exciting. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the competition in this space, because there's competition with plant-based eggs, but there's a lot more competition in cultivated. It seems like it's really a race to who can get there first. It's so fun. It feels like the race to space for me, the race to cultivated meat. Who's going to get there in a major way first? So, of course, congratulations to you, the first company, Good Meat, to have regulation in Singapore. Congratulations to Singapore, by the way. Big feather in their cap. I think they were very smart to make that marketing.
And you mentioned food security. I mean, it's no surprise that Singapore is the first to approve it. It's a small island nation which is very thoughtful about both the impact of climate change and their concerns around food. So they're an early adopter on this for a very good reason, and it's been great working with them. Because they really get it and they're really motivated to be a leader in this space.
Just a little bit of background there. The reason that Tom is saying that they're very motivated is right now, Singapore imports 90% of their food. So when you have food disruption issues like we did during COVID, you see how vulnerable a population like that is. So they now have a program 30 by 30. So by 2030, they want to be making 30% of their own food. Currently, they only do 10%. So they want to be in control of their food source. And this, to me, is a very geopolitical question. China having 1.4 billion people, obviously no one nation can really feed 1.4 billion people. Right now, China really relies on us and other nations for their food. But if they could control their own food source by, having prolific production with cultivated meat and others, things like plant-based perhaps, and others, fermented proteins, just imagine that political shift of power if you control your own food source, so you don't have to put up with people in trade talks anymore. I digress to the political plant-based hour or whatever. I'd have to change my name if we got into politics, but it's interesting. I mean, food, of course, touches our life in so many ways, but then the balance of powers across the world will shift, I think, to who can produce the most food. I don't know. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I'll go back to the beginning of that question, which was, the amount of competition in the space. And I would just say how amazing that is. Again, if you think about the steps that are going into the research and the production of cultivated meat, there's a lot in there. And I'm not the right person to dive into every technical piece of it. That's we've got a team for that. But there's so much experimentation that can go into this. There's so much different ideas that need to be tested, different processes to look into. you want a lot of different companies and a lot of capital trying to figure that out and make this better, make it more scalable, bring down cost. So like, I think we're really proud of our position. I think we're confident about where we are in the landscape of other cultivated companies. I think we're confident because of the head start we've had in some of our areas. I think we're also confident, again, because we have talent in house that is able to bring this to market. But overall, I think the fact that there are so many different companies and so much energy, the fact that conventional producers are even have skin in the game now, is a really good thing. It's a really good thing for the industry, really good thing for our planet, really good thing for animals. So, like I said at the very, very top of this hour, when you brought up competition in the egg space, it's true for us too. We're putting our heads down. We have an amazing team of scientists that are just thinking about how can we do this better every single day, and that's where our focus is as a company.
Yeah, so very exciting. Some of the mainstream animal companies, really animal agriculture companies, JBS is getting into cultivated meat. I think they just signed, I want to say like $100 million deal with Aleph Farms. I could have that wrong. I will look into that. Also here in the US, it's a drop in the bucket. I would have liked to have seen more, but of $147 million proposal or that has been passed to work on general ag tech, $10 million of that went to the nation's first cultivated meat innovation center that's with Tufts University. So some interesting developments there. Of course, $10 million a drop in the bucket, but hopefully we will increase there. Yeah, I think it'll be very interesting to see what happens in the competition space. And it's not just, of course, the end product users or competitors. There's also those folks who are making scaffolding and growth serum and bioreactors. You know, the whole supply chain needs innovation. So very exciting.
Okay. Yeah, that's my point. Exactly. The more energy and capital in that space, the better. So very good thing.
Yes, very good thing. I don't know if you can talk about sales or revenue coming out of Singapore for chicken, but I'd love to know, no supply issues there. I mean, it's just such a tricky thing to be able to get it out to people. You're so far ahead of the game. Any bumps in the road on supplying people with cultivated chicken or sales there?
Yeah, no, I mean, we've been pretty upfront about this. You know, we've not scaled to the point where we can completely replace meat in, say, Singapore today. You know, that it's going to take a lot of capital, a lot of time to scale to the point where we're in every grocery store in Singapore or the US. And so we still have limited supply. And, you know, that's why we're, I think, fortunate to be able to continue to raise capital and invest in how we scale this. So we'll have a lot of more announcements in terms of what that looks like in the coming months. But, you know, we are at the 1 yard line. There's a lot of work to do in terms of how we scale this, not in a way where we're selling some in Singapore, but where we're really making an impact in the overall global meat supply.
Yeah, in so many ways. And so Debbie Wall just said, like, well, let's get cultivated meat to the pet space. And I actually think I've heard of this already. I want to say out of the UK. I might have that wrong, but I think even Ryan Bethencourt in the US might be working on something in that arena as well. So I don't know.
It's a good idea. Plant-based pet food as well. There's a lot of room in that space for sure.
Yeah. So when we come to the end of the year, we're talking about predictions. We're also talking about, you know, what the year that we're just finishing here has produced. There's been a lot of talk about, there was this spike in plant-based foods, alternative proteins during COVID. And now in 2021, those numbers are coming down. And I'm wondering if you have any comments about that. I have lots of comments that I'll make, but I want to hear yours first. If you have any from the Eat Just perspective, if you have any comments on the numbers we're seeing of 2021 consumption.
Yeah, I mean, like I mentioned yesterday, I mean, we're continuing to grow. So we did see a huge spike around that sort of COVID panic as that began and people rushed into grocery stores, but we've continued to grow. So in the last 12 months, we've nearly doubled our U.S. households. Yeah. We're growing month over month. There's a lot of space to grow here. I mean, as I mentioned earlier, we control 99.2% of the fastest growing plant-based category. So there's just a lot of room for us to continue to grow. We're smaller than plant-based meat, smaller than plant-based dairy. So a lot of potential for us, obviously this year, next year. The other thing I would say too is this year was important for us because we're starting to enter the food service channel in a more serious way. So you look at coffee store chains like Pete's, Phil's Coffee, Gregory's, depending on which city you're in. We're at all these amazing coffee store chains, and we're excited about sort of that continuing to ramp up and us being in more and more food service locations.
Yeah, very exciting. Would love to see, the Eat Just breakfast sandwich at Starbucks,
Yeah.
so really looking forward to that. And on a smaller scale, but sort of shout out to a friend, Nils Zacharias, who's working with bodegas in New York City. Of course, there's the plant-based Eat Just egg sandwich there, which is so fun. And I love what he's doing with the New York bodegas.
I'm pretty sure, and I can go back and look at the article, but that was Eric
Adams. Yeah, the mayor of New York.
Mayor of New York. I think that was his first breakfast. Exactly. He went to a bodega and had his favorite Just Egg breakfast sandwich. It was a really cool initiative. And that's a part of, I think, our mission, but I think just the industry's mission we don't talk enough about, which is just food access. So, sustainability, I think everyone's very aware of the importance of sustainability in plant-based. Just Egg uses 98% less water, 93% fewer carbon emissions, 86% less land use. You think about health, we have no cholesterol. So when you're starting to think about heart disease and life longevity and the advantages of going plant-based, but we have to ensure that we're building these brands and companies in a way where we're not just impacting a certain segment of people who can afford it or can find it. We want to be everywhere. And when I talked about our trajectory, it's making our product taste better, but also making it lower cost and continuing to make sure we're bringing down the cost curve, because we want to be an egg for everyone. That's true here. It's true in other countries and continents. But being able to partner with Plantega is so cool. I mean, it's these bodegas that, it's not a complex thing to bring Just Egg into a bodega, but no one was doing it. No one was stitching together that gap in terms of how do we start introducing better, healthier plant-based options into these corner stores. And we're super proud to be a part of that. It's been really cool to see some of the press recently, well-deserved press that he's gotten.
Yeah. So more shout outs for Nil just in the New Yorker. I've had Eric Adams on this show, and Nil's going to be on this show in about a month. Right on to both of them. Of course, Mayor Eric Adams of New York just awarded or won being mayor and looking at producing plant-based options in schools. He's also done pilot programs of plant-based options in hospitals. And when he was Brooklyn Bureau president. So very exciting news on that front. But you talked about how, plant-based eggs are now, you're on 3.0. You're still on 1.0 with cultivated meat. Maybe you can share with us what you have down the pipeline coming in 2022. What kind of developments or new things that we see from you?
Yeah, I'm not even sure it's interesting. I'm not sure I'd call our chicken 1.0. I'm sure there was 100 versions that went into it where we are now, but it's the first one to be sold commercially. That's definitely true. In terms of what's next, I mean, on the cultivated side, I can't say too much, but there will be some exciting news coming up in the next month or so.
Will I get access to it? Or I'll go to Singapore if you make me.
Yeah. Okay, deal. I'll have Andrew give you a heads up.
Okay, fair enough.
But we got some exciting news in that front, and then Just Egg. I mean, everyone knows about Just Egg Liquid. It's our first product. It's in the most points of distribution. It's our most versatile product. I mean, you can make French toast or quiche or frittata or anything you could do with an egg, you could pretty much do with Just Egg. But Just Egg Folded, we launched a little over a year ago, which is like a frozen egg patty. And it's an incredible product. It's what I share with my friends who haven't had Just Egg. I'll give them Just Egg Folded first because it's so delicious and it's so simple and convenient. And that growth's been really incredible to see this year. And then we also have Just Egg Sous Vide. So that's a product. We have 4 different flavors. It's a sous vide egg bite. It's kind of like the egg bites you'd see in a Starbucks. They're in the frozen section of Whole Foods and other retailers, and they're really delicious. So I encourage people to try those too. And there will be more. And I can't talk about it all now, but we're Just Egg is our brand, and we're going to be coming up with amazing uses of Just Egg in all sorts of different applications. So those are our first three, but there will certainly be more in the future.
Yeah, so very exciting. Can't wait to get my hands on some Just Egg sous vide. I don't think I've had that, so I'm going to. That's available in the US, yes?
Yeah.
Of course, yes.
Yep.
Yeah, getting my hands on that.
Good.
So as we talk about developments, and I was saying, well, I'm seeing some kind of B2B developments happening about ingredients, and I also think there's going to be changes with packaging, and I think you're going to start seeing carbon footprint pricing, or your carbon footprint score, if you will, on the front of pack. And I wonder if if you have any thoughts about packaging and what will happen to the Eat Just packaging. Will it change? Will it shift? Or will it maintain its iconic? I mean, I love the look of it, but as we all move away from plastics, and then also we start noticing our carbon footprint, and you have a great carbon footprint, will that ever make it to front of pack?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really good question about will we put our carbon footprint on front of pack. I think that's something we think about, but we haven't thought about it. I mean, we work really hard, and it's a challenge, I think, for all companies to keep front of pack really simple, but also we want to put everything on it. And it's just this tug of war of do we put that we're cholesterol free on the front of pack? Do we talk about our lower carbon and water use? Do we there's a lot of things we could put on front of pack. I'm not sure if we will put that on there, but maybe we should consider it. We should test that.
Yeah.
In terms of Just Egg packaging, yeah, I mean, it's in our roadmap. We need to make some changes, and we will improve our packaging over time. A lot goes into that process in terms of working with our partners and others to ensure we can do that in a seamless and thoughtful way. But yeah, I would look for updated packaging at some point for Just Egg.
So one of the things I do with most people know me for the Plant-Based Business Hour, but really where I spend 97% of my time is with plant-powered consulting and my consulting clients. Are you familiar with the packaging company Evanes?
I'm not. That's not my focus, but very interesting.
Let me make that introduction for you, or you can put me in touch with the right person. I'll make it for them. They are doing incredible compostable. I mean, I know you have a special look and you have a special coloring, but very worth the dive in, because they've got microwavable trays. Now, you don't use trays, but I do think something could happen here that are compostable in the ground, but you can microwave them. You can put them in the oven.
Very cool.
They stand. Yeah, very interesting. I think there's going to be a lot of new developments on the packaging front. Again, we're talking about really the shifting of the entire global food supply chain, and not just the end products, but I think packaging is going to go under some changes, and I'll share that information with you. Okay, so as we kind of wrap up here, I'd love to know your predictions. Now, I ask this at the end of every show, but it takes on particular significance when you're at the end of 2021, about to go to 2022. So the whole world's looking for predictions, and I wonder if you could comment on your predictions for the industry as a whole. So not just your brands, but where you just kind of think things are going, and then for your companies as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be just shameless, and I'm very biased. So, but I really do think that Plant-Based Ag and Just Egg is going to have a pretty big year next year. I mean, like I mentioned earlier, in some ways we've been really lucky, because we've really been the major force in Plant-Based Egg space. On the other hand, we've had a huge challenge. I mean, we didn't have this sort of category that's morphed over time. I mentioned plant-based dairy, for example. Again, it was something that grew very quickly, but did evolve from soy milks from a decade plus ago into almond milk and oat milk and things like that. There's a lot of plant-based consumers who wouldn't even think to look in the egg set, and so it's been a lot of education and awareness building we've had to put into building our brand. And I think we're at this moment now where people are discovering that plant-based has hit eggs, and I'm anticipating a pretty big year. I mean, our value proposition, again, is really clear to consumers. And I think health is the biggest driver. you think about our cholesterol, saturated fat. There's health halo, just a plant-based period. And the other thing with egg versus meat is people eat eggs every morning. A lot of people eat eggs every morning, and Beyond Impossible, they're amazing products, great companies, but people typically don't eat burgers, every night. And consumers are going to be thinking more and more about, what do I want to eat for breakfast every day to live a healthier, more sustainable life? And we've got a pretty great product for that. So I think we're going to have a big year. I mean, I'm convinced overall in plant-based, things will slow and ebb and flow a little bit, but I'm extremely optimistic for the plant-based space. And the reason I say that is, these are huge leaps we made in a tiny period of time. I mean,
yes,
people wouldn't even think about a plant-based burger 5 years ago. And now they have, 30 plus different options to do that. All of those companies are making their product better and better and better. People are thinking more about it. They're becoming more familiar with it. The other thing that I think is really interesting, and we look at this a lot too, is the idea of a divided family. So there's a lot of families where the younger generations are quickly adopting plant-based food. Their parents aren't. But that gap's going to close over time, because the kids are going to be demanding plant-based dairy, plant-based egg, plant-based meat, and over time slowly introducing it to the older generations. And so for me, it's not just that younger consumers will become older, and over time that younger demo will claim a larger share of the market. It's actually, I think, that the younger generations are going to be pulling the older generations into plant-based because of these divided families and other dynamics where a parent doesn't want to have to buy 2-3 different kinds of eggs or meat or dairy. So I'm pretty optimistic for the plant-based space. I think it's going to be a big year and a big decade.
Innovo market research came out saying that interest in planetary health has just surpassed interest in personal health for switching over to plant-based or alternative proteins. And I think that conversation is going to get so much traction so quickly that if you live in a divided household, the shame factor is just going to be so large from the child to the parent, because it's that child's future you're messing with. That's a hard conversation to win. Like, you want your burger so bad, you're putting my future on the line. I mean, I'm talking about extremes for the bullet point of this conversation, but that general theme, I think, is going to come up a lot, and it's going to be very hard to have divided households.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a big part of it, but I also think taste is a big part of it. I mean, I think there's just a skepticism that, is this really going to taste as good as what I've been eating for 30, 40, 50, 60 years, until you try it. And some of these consumers might not go to the store and buy it, but if you have your kid or friend or neighbor cooking it for you, try it once and you're like, wow, that's really incredible. And it happens to be in line with the values that I have in terms of planetary health, animals, human health. It's only going to accelerate. These consumers are going to be getting the word out, and we're going to see the pace of growth continue to pick up.
Yeah, it is so very exciting. Oh, do you think we'll see from Eat Just that you might have like a pre-made sandwich ready? I mean, I just see people now getting back to work, maybe working less from home.
Yeah.
They're kind of back in it. Time is, precious, even more so than it was before. Do you think you'll have something that's like, okay, frozen on a bagel, and here you go, with maybe
It's funny you mentioned that. You mentioned ingredients a couple of times. I mean, just egg itself is an ingredient. So we are used in industrial applications.
Yeah.
I think there's a number. Field Roast has a build currently at Whole Foods with just egg in it. So you could buy a pre-made plant-based breakfast sandwich with Field Roast sausage and just egg right now at Whole Foods. But that's one of many different partners that are already using just egg in builds exactly like what you're talking about. So, or go to Pete's or Phil's or Gregory's and you can get one too. And more shameless plugs, but Just Egg folded, again, it's a frozen product. You throw in the toaster and heat it up. It's that simple. So very easy, convenient breakfast sandwiches that way as well.
It's so awesome. Well, this is a pity because we really could talk about a lot for a very long time. But some of the exit questions, which I always like to get into a little bit more on the personal side for you, so much going on in the plant-based space and so much to learn on a personal level. I'm wondering what you wish you knew 10 years ago that you know now.
Oh man, I worked in politics 10 years ago, and so I maybe would have told myself to get out of that game earlier. I might have been a happier guy. So I guess that'd be my answer. Yeah.
I love that. Do you have a legacy? Anything you'd like to be known for?
Not personally, but I mean, I'm in this, I think, for the same reason most people are in it at our company. I mean, we want to build a big, thriving, profitable business, and we've got a plan to do that, and it's what we work for every day. But we're also in it because we genuinely do care about our mission. It's not sort of a marketing initiative or something. I mean, we know that we need to transform our food system to solve some of the challenges that we're facing in the world, and that's why I'm here, and I'm going to work every day to help further that, and alongside with everyone else at our company.
And how has working in your mission, with your mission, changed your life?
Wow. Changed my life.
Impacted your life?
I mean, in a lot of ways. I mean, I'm not sure I'm answering your question, but I will say this is an incredibly fun place to be in marketing, because you're doing things that you're not just trying to like incrementally improve sales here or there. You're trying to build an entire category. Like, how do you build the plant-based egg category? How do you educate consumers about cultivated meat? These are like really big questions, and it's extremely fun to work on those challenges. A lot of research goes into it, a lot of testing and learning, a lot of work sessions with smart colleagues to try to figure out how to do those things, and I'm having a blast. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel the same. I feel like I am so lucky to work in an area where I'm going to be able to look back 2-3 decades from now and say, my fingerprint is right there. I can see it. Because it's such a small industry, we're all having our imprints on. It's just really a lucky place to be in the world. Okay, so you are running around, you're super busy, you don't have time for lunch. What is your go-to snack?
Oh, go-to snack. Wow.
Snack.
I eat a lot of soy curls, which I'm sure a lot of your listeners follow from Butler Foods. I eat them probably every day. So, in all sorts of different applications. I'm not sure that's a snack, but hopefully that's close enough to an answer.
Yeah, that works. Okay. And as the global head of marketing, so you have a team and, people work under you, for you, with you. Some days don't go as the team would like or that you would like. And I'm wondering if there's a phrase that you say to you and your team to get yourself back in the game.
Oh, man. Wow. I don't have a phrase for that. But I will say, and I've, been through a bunch of, different places to work and campaigns and different things. And there's a genuine camaraderie in our company, and it is, it's exciting. People work really hard, but it's a really great place to work, because there's not a lot of ego, or there's no backstabbing. There's no things like that. We know we need to move very quickly, though, and that's the only thing the analogy to my former life in politics, where you've got an end date and you're moving as fast as you can to election day. We don't have that, but we know that this is a really special moment where we're in this category that's growing really fast. We're certainly the major force in that category, and we want to take advantage of this moment. So we're working really hard and moving quickly to get us there.
So, insider question: does Chris Jones still work with you?
Yeah.
Oh, how I love him! You have to tell him I say hello. We go back to our Chicago days.
That's amazing. Yeah. He's incredible. He leads our product development.
Such a talent. Yeah,
he's an incredible talent. And I did go back and watch that season of Top Chef once I started working at Eat Just. I don't know if you've seen that, but I got a lot of kicks out of it after working with him, going back and seeing some of those moments. I think he's depicted pretty well in the show. I think that's pretty accurate.
We worked together on some things in Chicago. So very cool. Tom Rossmeissl, still making sure I'm saying that right.
Yeah.
Okay. It's just so great to have you here on the Plant-Based Business Hour. I'm so happy for all you do. I'm so excited about all that is on the forefront for the Good Meat Company, but also Eat Just, of course, both of those products. I'm going to get my hands on some egg sous vide, that is for sure. And when your next developments happen and cultivated, I sure hope it's somewhere that I can get to, because I definitely want to try those. I can't wait to get them in my mouth. So very exciting, all that you do and all that you work on. Thank you so much for everything you do.
Thanks for having me on, and happy holidays.
Yes, happy holidays, everybody.
Yeah.
Tom, don't go away, but everybody on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitter, happy holidays to you. And remember, thanks for being vegan. Bye, everybody. Tom, stay put.